I mean, I think I've struggled with self-doubt probably most of my life, I would say.
Yeah, same.
And I think probably, that probably comes from a lot of things.
What I like to do is give that voice in my head, that self-doubt, an identity.
Okay, well, like a name, identity.
Yeah. Like, no, honestly.
Think, I'm going to spend time celebrating me. You just go, right, okay, cool. So what's the next thing? How do we go forward? And the thing is with that sort of maybe perhaps like blinkered vision, it's very easy to forget about your achievements, and that's essentially like a breeding ground for limiting beliefs.
It doesn't go to plan. What's the worst that could happen? But like, people will laugh at me and look at me. I was like, no, they won't. Like that's you making up a story in your head.
Like, beliefs aren't fact, right? They're beliefs, and that's the point, right? So it's like, when you, in that context that you're talking about, like you believe that you're higher up than you are.
Yeah.
And when you look at the facts, you're not.
Yeah.
Right? And that, I think the distinction between belief and fact is quite important. What's up, guys? This is the Middle Ground podcast. I am one of your hosts, Olivier Nicholas.
And I'm the other host, Reese White. So, in today's topic, we're talking about overcoming self-doubt. And I suppose in a way that's kind of like having limiting beliefs, or that voice in your head saying, I can't do this, or I'm not good enough. Would you say that's like definition of self-doubt?
I think it's a pretty good definition. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about ways of how to overcome that, self-doubt, limiting beliefs, and maybe things that's worked on us, or things that we do with our clients to help overcome that. So, yeah, like where would you start with that, mate?
Where would I start with that? I mean, for a start, I'm someone. I would say that I probably overcome self-doubt most days.
Is with us most of the time, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I can coach people all day long on limiting beliefs and things like that, because it's, obviously I've studied it a lot as well, but I think that doesn't mean that I don't need to do that work myself. I feel like I have to also do that work on myself, because I think I've struggled with self-doubt probably most of my life, I would say.
Yeah, same.
And I think probably, that comes from a lot of things. And actually, a point that you made in the first podcast around kind of like feeling like you had to work extra hard as a mixed race kid, it resonated as well. And I think for me, that self-doubt probably came from, I come from quite a smart family. Like, my brother went to private school, and he became, went to law school, sort of thing. My dad's incredibly smart as well. And I felt massively like the black sheep in the family. My path took a completely different path, and I think I felt I had a huge inferiority complex growing up. And I think taking my own path probably helped me to steer that a little bit. Because I think if I tried to follow one of their paths, I probably would have had even more limiting beliefs, because it's not a career path that was natural for me to follow.
Yeah.
But it's like, I think, it's when I went my own path, I think I found strength in that as well, because it was mine. I think I mentioned this on another episode as well, where it's like I got to control the narrative a bit more. So because I wasn't trying to be an academic, which is what the path that my brother had followed, because I wasn't trying to do that, I suddenly felt a slight alleviation of pressure in a sense, because I suddenly didn't have other standards to be measured by. I could just try and stay in my own lane. So I think, to answer your question in terms of like what it means to me, I think it's about, you can't cure them, right? You can't just cure limiting beliefs, and you can't just cure self-doubt, but there are ways that you can manage these things throughout life. And that's why I think, coaching is super powerful in that context. And I expect that I mean, there's bound to be crossover in the fitness world, I imagine, in terms of, I mean, you must have experienced, I mean, maybe you didn't, I don't know, but self-doubt and limiting beliefs.
Yeah, you know what, it's funny what you say about it. We're doing a podcast, how to overcome self-doubt, but like, yeah, it's something that happens to me a lot. And I think it's going back to obviously my childhood, but also you could probably relate to this a bit more. But being self-employed and running your own business, there's a lot of am I doing the right thing? Is this going in the right direction? Am I cut out for this? It's a tough gig, and yeah, you're right. You can't cure yourself of self-doubt. There's always going to be that voice at the back of your head. But I think what you do is adapt to it and you deal with it better. So I truly believe that like the more you kind of put yourself in an uncomfortable position or push yourself out of a comfort zone, or you have failures, it makes you deal with the self-doubt and limiting beliefs a bit better, because I've gone through, you know, a lot of failures and in my life, but you kind of stop. I stop and think, Reese, mate, you've been here before and you got over this, or sometimes it's just almost, what I like to do is give that voice in my head, that self-doubt, an identity.
Okay, well, like a name, identity.
Yeah. Like, no, honestly, like,
cool, I like
it sounds a bit weird, but like, I think again,
shame
from the first episode, I always talk about myself as a kid, you know, feeling out of place and not having an identity and confidence, all that kind of stuff. So sometimes when I am going through a tough moment and I am thinking to myself, I don't know if I could do this. This is really tough. Am I really cut out for it? I give it an identity, and I almost imagine it's my younger self telling me I can't do that, because that's exactly how I felt at that time. But obviously, I've grown since then. I'm a different person, and you know, I've done a lot of things. But when that self-doubt comes in, and I see my younger self telling me that, sometimes he might win, and he might get hold of me, and you know, I do go for that challenge, or I'm just like, hey man, what's up? Like, yeah, you know what? I'm not that person anymore, and I've been here before. So I do. I'm trying to think of a book that I read, which is all about giving your emotions like an identity, and it makes you deal with it in a better way. It doesn't have to be your younger self. It could be a white sheep or anything, you know, just something. But when those feelings crop up, I'm always like, what's up, man? What's up, little man? Like, yeah, you know what? You're probably right, but I'm not going to listen to you today. I'm going to push through. Do you know what I mean?
I love that. I love that. I think that's so good. I don't know to what degree like humanizing it makes it easier to kind of push it away, but I love that as a concept. It's funny because when I was thinking about this earlier, I was thinking about it not in a dissimilar way, actually. I was thinking about, I had this idea of checking in with the guy in the back seat. So I had this sort of idea that, you know, you're both in the car, but you get like a backseat driver. And it's like, and to your point, you know, like your younger self or whatever. And I think, you know, you do have to look back at what you've achieved. And, you know, we've mentioned this a couple of times, but I think it's relevant throughout, you know, looking back at what you've done. I think people, it's very easy. And I think particularly as a business owner, I think it's very easy to just keep going, right? So you, rather than going, oh, hey, you know, like last week I got X, Y, and Z, which is really going to help me in my business. You don't think, oh, I'm going to spend time celebrating me. You just go, right, okay, cool. So what's the next thing? How do we go forward? Like, and the thing is with that sort of maybe perhaps like blinkered vision, it's very easy to forget about your achievements, and that's potentially like a breeding ground for limiting beliefs, right? Because you don't, if you never celebrate the things that you've done successfully, you're going to continue to believe that you can't do the next thing or whatever.
You're never doing enough, right? Yeah.
And it's like, one of the things that I like to do with my clients as well, and not everyone works on a kind of factual basis or evidence basis, but like one of the things that I like to do is, like, so for example, if someone says, okay, I'm going into a meeting on next week and I have to present in front of the board. There's going to be, the whole board is going to be there, and it's like a 20-minute presentation, and I'm bricking it. There's no way that I can do this. And then so, my response to that would be, well, okay, but let's look at this, right? So you're going to go into this and you think you can't do it, right? So let's look at the evidence. Like, what evidence do you have to suggest that you can't do it, right? So, what can you prove that you can't do it? Is it possible for you to prove that? And, normally the answer is no, you can't, right? It's
a data over emotions, right?
Right, exactly. So it's like, okay, cool. So you can't prove that you can't do it. Let's have a look at some times when the contrary is true. So talk to me about, a time where, you thought that you couldn't do something, and then when it came to it, you did it and it works a lot better than you did. And then quite often it doesn't even have to be a big thing, it can be really small, it's perception over how large it is. And then you can say, like, okay, so this happened and actually it was all fine. And it's like, okay, cool. So let's look at this. You've got no evidence to say that you can't do it, but actually you've got proof that you can do it. And, and it's like, okay, well, and like I said, not everyone's evidence-based. If some people don't think like that, but it can be quite powerful to put that in front of people.
How many times have you tried something thinking it was going to be an absolute disaster and you're going to be shit at it and fail, but when you did it, you kind of went, oh, it wasn't actually that bad. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, that's today.
Yeah. It's not, going into a podcast studio and talking is actually quite easy. No, you're right. Like it's. I'm trying to relate it to me. Like last year, I had to go in front of like 100 people and talk about my journey into fitness. First time talking to a big crowd like that, and I was shitting it. But then once you're up there and you do it and it's finished, you're kind of like, what was the fuss about? It wasn't actually that bad. It could be the same to someone maybe a bit nervous going to the gym for the first time, or because you think everyone's looking at you, but when you go in, it's like, it's not actually that bad. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely. I can't remember what I was watching something the other day, and it was, they were talking about how to, the topic was like a bungee jump, and it was the idea of how did you, I forget who the people were that were talking to each other, and the guy was like, what's your best advice for when I get up there and like doing the bungee jump? And then his advice was like, just jump. Just do it. Just do the thing. Just do the thing, right?
It literally is, yeah.
And it's like, and it's like, I know that almost sounds a bit senseless, but like if you just do the thing, you're like more than likely figure out, and it might not go amazingly, it might not go exactly as you wanted it to go, but
the rope might snap.
Right, in the context of the bungee jump, I should fucking hope it will. But like,
maybe that's a bad example.
But like, you're gonna, it's bad wording, but you're gonna fall where you're gonna fall. Like, when you try something new, and actually you probably will have grown as a result. Like, I think one of the times for me that I was massively out of my comfort zone was the first time that I did public speaking. I actually did a course on fear of public speaking because I was so terrified of it, and it was a workshop. It was a workshop on mindset, and I was absolutely bricking it, because I thought, there's no way I'm going to be able to do this. Like, no one's going to want to hear what I've got to say, or someone's going to disagree with me, or some whatever. And I did it, and I sort of confronted that fear, and it did. I mean, I wouldn't say it was perfect. I wouldn't say that I was like thrilled about how it went, but I'm glad I did it, and I think the next one will be better as a result of that.
Yeah, but also I think it's also, if you're trying something and you are thinking, I can't do this, or I'm not good enough, whatever it is, obviously, just do it. That's easier said than done. But also, but end of the podcast, that's it. But it's also like, what are the consequences? What happens if it doesn't go right? Like, most of the time it's nothing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I think people really kind of over exaggerate what happens when they try something and it doesn't go to plan. They think something really bad is going to happen, but actually you try something, it doesn't work out, and you're fine. You're, nothing happens, if that makes sense, unless you're doing bungee jumping. So I think it's like that. It's kind of like I always have guys working with me going, I've never been to the gym before. I'm nervous and I don't want to go. It's making me anxious and I don't think I could do it. I was like, okay, if you go to the gym and you try out a few exercises and, it doesn't go to plan, what's the worst that could happen? They're like, people will laugh at me and look at me. I was like, no, they won't. Like that's you making up a story in your head. And I think that's what failure is. Like failure is you making up what you think's going to happen before it actually happens. And it's we always over exaggerate what it's going to be. Is you think, I don't know, if we do something, everyone in the world is going to be pointing their finger at you and laughing at you. Do you know what I mean? But it's just like everyone's doing their own stuff, and and again, every time that client goes to the gym and he tries a few exercises, he comes back and goes, that was all right. I was like, yeah. And he's like, how did you find that exercise? It's like, I felt a bit stupid doing it. I was like, okay, but what happened? Did people laugh at you? Did anyone say anything? It's like, no, everyone's just doing their own thing. I was like, there you go. Do you know what I mean? So, but I think one thing that something that could relate to that is that you're always comparing yourself to other people, aren't you? And I think that also creates self-doubt. Like, again, I'm going to use the same situation, but if you're going to the gym and you're a complete newbie and everyone's in the gym working out and they know what they're doing, for some roids bodybuilders, screaming and lifting weights, that's intimidating. They've obviously been going to the gym for a long time and they're way further ahead of you in terms of their journey. But you should never compare yourself to other people, because that's always going to give you doubt. And that's always going to make you think you're not good enough. But there's always going to be someone richer than you, stronger than you, fitter than you, further along than you on the journey that you want to take. You should never compare yourself to those people, because I again, this is something I do a lot, is I'm always looking at people going, oh man, they're smashing it. Why haven't I hit those numbers yet? Or why am I not there yet? And that causes then self-doubt. And I'm like, if I'm not there yet now, what am I doing wrong? Do you know what I mean?
But no one's ever going to be more you than you, right?
Exactly.
I think that's I completely agree. And I think also I would actually add to that, like, never underestimate how self-absorbed everyone else is. Do you know what I mean?
No one cares.
Exactly. Exactly. Like, stay in your lane, or lean into the skid. Do you know what I mean? I think, it's like you say, it's a narrative that you play in your own head, because you're front and center, right? Like, the thing is happening to you, you're playing the lead role in it. There's a massive audience there to see you, but actually in reality, that's not the case. You're just a part of, what's going on in that room. So I think it's one of those things where, like you said a minute ago, it's like, it's one thing to say, it's another thing to do, right? So it's like that idea of just do it or whatever. And I think as long as you can kind of tell yourself that enough, and using the example, I guess it's not your younger self in this context, but your other self enough, then hopefully that you can kind of go through that.
Because like, to kind of sum it up, right, we're all capable of doing what we want to do. We all could achieve anything that we want. It's only our beliefs that limit us, right? We could all train for a marathon, for example, but it's only the people who don't do that is because they're telling themselves they can't do that, right? But I truly think, like, and again, it's just like, just do it. But I think the biggest failure is not trying in the first place. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is actually really good timing. I do social events with my online clients, and I'm taking them bouldering tomorrow, and it's actually a bit of a kind of like a mindset lesson to it. So, have you been bouldering before?
I actually haven't. No.
Right. So I'm not an expert. I've only been twice, to be fair. But basically, the whole thing I'm doing with them is I'm taking them bouldering, and when you go to the walls, they've got different color codes on the wall. So it might be pink for really easy, purple for a little bit harder, and then it goes up to red, black, or the black one is like crazy hard. So the exercise I do with them is just like, we're just going bouldering. Oh, let's try this easy climb. All of us should be able to do it. Bum, bum, bum. And then we go into the next color. We try it. We give it a go. We all do the climb. We're eventually going to hit a color where we're looking at this climb and going, this looks fucking scary. Do you know what I mean? And the whole point of this kind of event tomorrow is that we're all going to eventually get to a climb that either we're looking at already doubting ourselves, going, I can't climb that, or we try it and we fail, or we might get up there and get stuck and think, like, what the hell am I doing? I'm stuck. I can't do this. Whatever one of those things happen, the whole point is going to be like, right, we tried this climb and we failed, or you're looking at it and think you're already going to fail. We're going to keep doing this climb until we do it, because every time we fail, we learn something about the climb, and we approach it in a different way. So, and I think that whole kind of like, this bouldering example is a good way to look at trying things out and seeing failures as lessons and learning from those failures, and it makes you approach things in a different way when you do it again.
I love that. I love that idea of like the changing the path, and it's such a beautiful like metaphor for life as well, isn't it? It's like, okay, so that route didn't work, how do I, and like learning from those failures, like I like to say, like, fail it till you make it, just keep failing until you eventually get to where you need to go. And I think that's cool that you're doing that. I think the idea of, I don't know if how you're sort of pitching it with your clients, whether it is, whether if you even talk, how much you talk about mindset, but I think that will be an absolutely amazing exercise in mindset. I think the idea of being stuck at the top though would
yeah, that's a different story. We'll see what that happens. Again, I'm no expert, so they do get stuck. But also that's another thing, because bouldering, you don't actually climb that high, do you?
I've never done it.
Okay, so you're climbing up on the walls, and you don't have any rope, so you're not going to climb like 10 meters up. Do you know what I mean? It's probably the size of this like podcast room, to be fair.
Yeah.
But when you get okay, you should come in tomorrow. But when you get stuck, you think you're higher than you are,
right,
because obviously you're looking down and you're thinking, I'm so high right now, I'm stuck, I'm going to fall off, I'm going to break my leg. But actually, when you look at where your feet are, your feet is only that far away from the floor. Do you know what I mean? But it's because of where your head is.
Is it because you're disorientated?
Yeah. You think you're way higher than you think.
Right.
So it's kind of like, look, if you're stuck, you have to get yourself out of this some way or the other, or you're going to be stuck there forever. Try something. If you fall off, look down, you're not actually that high. Maybe look down and go, oh yeah, it's not. And then that gives them more encouragement to give something crazy a go.
Actually, it's funny. It's made me think as well. Like when you say that, you're not actually as high as you think you are. And going back to the kind of the topic of limiting beliefs, like beliefs aren't fact, right? They're beliefs, and that's the point, right? So it's like, when you, in that context that you're talking about, like you believe that you're higher up than you are.
Yeah.
And when you look at the facts, you're not, right? And that, I think the distinction between belief and fact is quite important in that sense, because then I think obviously, the beliefs do have a hold on us, and it's not to say, it's quite obvious they do, but if you can try and rationalize it somehow, I suppose, in the same way that you've kind of, that was it could be a metaphor in a sense, the idea of thinking you're higher than you are, you know what I mean? When actually, you're not.
Yeah. And again, I think, it's just pushing yourself out of the comfort zone, just trying stuff. If you fail, then try again. Just keep trying until you become good at it, and then, do you know what I mean? And I think that's what it's all about, really. It's and again, I think self-doubt is thinking that we should do things for the first time and absolutely smash it, when it's not the case. Do you know what I mean? Like if you're trying something new or you've never done it before, you're not going to be good at it first time round, right? And I think it's just just reminding yourself of that.
So just to like sum up and for the end of the episode, I'll ask you a question. Like, what was the last time that you approached a situation that you didn't think you would be successful in, and then you approached it regardless?
I think it's jumping from being a one-to-one personal trainer on the gym floor to being an online coach. Because the reason I did that is because when you work long hours on the gym floor, I was waking up at 5 a.m, coming back at 9 p.m. I wanted to become an online coach to have a bit more flexibility, especially when my partner was expecting our child. So switching from training people one-to-one and then going into social media and trying to build my account and film myself talking to the camera and training people online. Will people want to train with me? Would people pay for my services when they haven't physically met me? That was quite a big one. It felt like I was almost making another career shift as well. That was one where I was just like, I don't know if I could do this. But one thing that helps me out of that, and again, I think this would actually help with limits and beliefs. If you are going into something that is a bit of the unknown, I found someone who's been there and done it, and he helped guide me through becoming an online coach, which made the process easier. I still had my self-doubts. I still questioned myself whether I was going to do it, but finding someone who's been there, done it, could give me guidance, could give me advice, and he maybe knows and the process that I'm going through, that helped as well. But trust me, there's a lot of things I've tried as an online coach. If I look back at the content I posted a year ago, it really makes me cringe out. Talking in front of a camera, all that kind of stuff. And yes, sometimes go a month without getting an online client in, but then all of a sudden, 5 drop in the next month. There's a lot of self-doubt in that. But yeah, I think making that jump, that was the biggest one. I was just like, this is completely new to me, but I need to do it.
Love that. I love the word need in that context as well.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for listening, guys. This is the Middle Ground podcast, and don't forget to subscribe for future podcast episodes.
That'd be awesome. Cheers, guys.